Join the First Tee of Greater New Orleans for their 20th annual Golf Classic on Tuesday, October 14th at Bayou Oaks Golf Course in City Park. This four-person scramble benefits the First Tee's youth development and in-school education programs. There will be prizes, raffles, goodie bags, and delicious food and drinks provided by top local restaurants. Register your team today at firstteenola.org or by calling 504-304-3309. We're local and educational. You're watching WLAE-TV, celebrating 40 years of New Orleans public television.
Inside New Orleans Sports with Eric Asher is underwritten by...
At Villere's Florist, we deliver the magic of flowers 7 days a week to the North Shore and South Shore in the New Orleans area. Whether it's for birthday parties, baby celebrations, Villere's provides colorful floral displays for all. With a store full of fresh-cut flowers, exotic tropical flowers, orchids, roses, and even fruit baskets, our goal is to make your vision a reality. Villere's Florist, proudly serving Louisiana since 1969.
Dave Miette Insurance Agency. Auto, home, flood, business, 504-556-0809. Dave Miette, INSagency.com.
CNC Drugs is a family-owned pharmacy that's been serving Southeast Louisiana for over 50 years. Whether you need help taking care of an elderly family member, a growing child, or even a pet, CNC provides patient-centered care for your entire family. CNC Drugs, large enough to serve you, small enough to know you. Locations in Mandeville and Araby.
Good evening and welcome to another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host Eric Asher. Over the next hour, we will cover all the home teams and all of them today. Saints, LSU, Tulane, Pelicans, all on our docket to break it down for us to the best we have. John Sokoloff, WGNO-TV Sports, and of course my colleague over at 106.7 The Ticket, and of course at CrescentCitySports.com, Jude Young, and also voice of the UNO Privateers. Almost gave them to Tulane. They join us on the program today. Jude, we'll start with you first. Why don't you brag on the station, brag on Crescent City, and brag on the Privateers as well? Because the Privateers might have a pretty good team this year.
Yeah, we're excited about that. And there's a big exhibition, the Southwest Shootout. Shaquille O'Neal, general manager of Sacramento State now, with head coach Mike Bibby coming to town to play the Privateers. Of course, Master P, Percy Miller, putting that together with Shaq. So excited about that before even the real games start at the lakefront. Should be an exciting season, a very talented looking roster so far from what I've seen in the preseason. And of course, with the ticket, it's exciting to be able to have from 2 to 8 every day with live games on top of that, live local sports talk. Deke Bellavia joining the team now from 7 to 8. Of course, I'm on from 6 to 7. You've got Ken Trahan from 2 to 4 in the afternoons, and of course, this man right here from 4 to 6. So providing the sports talk and content that people want locally. Station's the home of the Tulane Green Wave in both football and basketball, and the UNO Privateers in both men's basketball and baseball. And we're only adding to it. And of course, on this part of the year on Friday nights, we're on for hours and hours and hours, starting with Countdown to the Original, high school focused every week as far as the football scene, and at the restaurant that the great Scott Craig has in Lakeview, Francesca by Katie's, we have a theme night as we lead into Ken Trahan's original Louisiana Prep Football Report. It's Les East and I, and this week we're going to have Holy Cross night there. So Scott Watney, the head coach, will be there, and we have a prominent high school every week with their fans. Some bring their cheerleaders. We even had a small band one time come, and the food's fantastic. So join us out there if you can, whether you're connected to one of those high schools or not. We'll have Jesuit Brother Martin Rummel coming up in weeks to come. So excited about that as well. So obviously we're very busy.
And of course, you want to get your local sports. Crescent City Sports has got you covered, huh? Tell us all about it.
Hey, 24/7, 365. We're covering the scene from high school, which we have a special focus on. The Saints, whether you like it or not. And of course, college football's a little bit more fun right now with with Tulane and LSU. Pelicans heating up. We have content with great analysis, the latest news, and video content as well.
This guy over here, one of the best reporters we have in the city. If you're not watching Channel 26 and watching what this guy's doing on a day-in, day-out basis, you're missing a lot. John Sokoloff, tell us all about Channel 26.
Yeah, WGNO, we cover all the topics we're talking about today and beyond, obviously. The Saints, Pels, LSU, Tulane, high school sports on Friday night. We have our show, Friday Night Football, covering, at least 15 games per week, if not more. And then obviously on Saturday night, after that triple header of SEC games on ABC wrap up, we have our show. Sometimes it's an hour if it's right after LSU. Sometimes it's 30 minutes where we recap all the college football in this great state in depth. And then obviously nightly on WGNO at 6 and 10, we cover the Saints, Pels, Tulane. You get all that news from the day, and obviously high school sports right there in those newscasts. And on Friday nights on WNOL and WGNO, our Sports Zone show recapping the week. So a lot of stuff. So it's that time of the year, man.
In between, again, Crest City Sports, 106.7 The Ticket, and WGNO, nobody's covering high school sports. I'm telling you, again, all over it. So again, if you're looking to find out what's happening again with those with the Friday night lights, right here. 106.7 The Ticket, Crest City Sports, and WGNO TV. All right, let's get started, guys. I don't think we really want to talk about this, but we have to. Saints are 0-3. Again, 44-13 losers to the Seahawks. I was just telling the guys, one of the stats that really stick out to you is, again, if you're a old guy like me, 1973, Tulane Stadium, Saints Atlanta, 62-7 drubbing. That was actually my mom's birthday, September the 16th.
Happy birthday, Mom.
Yeah. I had to beg my mom to go to the game, and she, on her birthday, and we went. 38-6 at half is what it was on that day, and it was in Seattle on Sunday. What a drubbing. Saints are the most penalized team in the NFL with 31 penalties after 3. 15 of those are pre-snap. Only Tennessee is tied with them. And again, I'm just going to toss it over to my colleagues here and give me your thoughts on what you saw. Again, could you stick around and see it for the entire game? I had to. We've all had to. It was hard to watch. Most people didn't.
Yeah, I had to stick around because one of our programs on the ticket, we have a Saints post-game show sponsored by the Saints Hall of Fame. So we're on for 2 hours, no matter how it goes, taking your calls and analyzing the game. So yeah, I stayed in the whole way. And the bigger picture through 3 games, yes, there's now some concern, although 3 games does not a coaching career make as a head coach. But Kellen Moore, for the reason you mentioned primarily, leading the league in penalties and having such a horrible special teams performance in one game in your first road game, that is concerning. No matter the talent level on your team, you can't be beating yourself on top of that. And that's going to be something to watch moving forward, because anybody going into the season that had some sort of weird false hope of surprise contention in the division or anything like that, that should have been wiped out by now, and it should have never existed to begin with. This is a team that's clearly lacking in talent, starting with high-end difference-making talent. It's simply not there. But when you're trying to establish a culture and a foundation for the future, hoping that you can draft well, I think this draft's going to work out better than most of the recent 5 or 6, which isn't saying a lot, but there'll be some useful players at a minimum coming from it, from a little bit that we've seen so far. But long term, you've got to have a foundation where you're not making these type of mistakes, that you're not looking incompetent out there. And the first 2 games, despite the penalties, and you hated especially pre-snap penalties when you're playing at home, there was reason for hope that this team would be competitive and scrappy this year. If that's what we're going to see from them on the road, that's going to take an emotional toll, a psychological toll on these players, even the established veterans. You've got classy, fantastic people, including Cam Jordan, a future, I think, Canton inductee. We know Demario Davis is a special leader in person, but at some point the locker room starts to doubt the leadership and what are we doing here besides cashing a paycheck. So you worry about that, and that hurts you trying to build something for the future and for Kellen Moore and the staff to establish themselves together. So far, no good, but so far, people need to relax and see how this new group is able to adjust to this type of adversity. If you don't see improvement as far as the little things, then the big things are going to keep getting ugly.
We're going to get a little deeper into Coach Moore in a moment. Your thoughts on the self-inflicted mistakes that have been happening over the last 3 weeks, and which really there was a crescendo on Sunday.
Sunday was a monumental disaster. Every way you look at it, starts with the penalties, but special teams. the self-inflicted wound on the defensive side. That Brazil penalty, they had them off the field.
Right.
Who knows how that game goes if that changes? But instead, nope, self-inflicted wounds, pre-snaps. Oh, we've got reps at practice this week, so now, that'll fix the penalties. Well, guess what? It's not.
Right.
You got a young quarterback. You got some young pieces on an O-line, but I know we understand that this is a rebuilding team, and it's going to take some time. You have a brand new coach. He's never coached before. A young quarterback, 24 years old. We get that. Hard place to play. Seattle Seahawks team, maybe like a 9-win team. They'll probably be this year, 9 or 10 wins. But still, to look that bad 3 weeks in, because you talked about the first 2 weeks, Jude. I mean, things were looking all right. Okay, yeah. I mean, 49ers, you had a chance to win. The Cardinals, people like this year. Chance to win at the end, okay. And then to take such a massive step back when you finally play outside of your dome and face a little bit of adversity, it was an embarrassment.
Yeah.
It was a complete and utter embarrassment. Why should fans be, excited after that? Because now you're going up to a place that's even harder to play against a better team, against a future Hall of Fame quarterback. What gives anybody any hope about this team? What do you look at from this Saints team from this last week that makes you think, wow, I've got some hope for this team? You shouldn't have any.
Right, there is none at this point. And again, fair or not, it comes back to, again, the head coach. Again, it should go up to the general manager, okay, because that's where the genesis of this fall from, again, being a contender to, again, one of the worst teams in the NFL has started. And really, again, the buck stops with him, not the head coach. But it is his first opportunity to be a head coach in the NFL. And again, look, I was concerned about his aw shucks persona. Again, how is he going to be able to motivate his team? Will he be able to discipline his team? We're not in the locker room. We don't see it. But again, you have to be concerned with, again, the fact that they're having all these pre-snap penalties. What we're seeing in terms of the lack of discipline with this team. And then, of course, you got to go back to training camp. You guys were there, and look. Did the light practices, the shorter practices, the lack of contact, is that really helping this team a quarter into the season? Because to me, injuries have not subsided. You got 8 linemen that are on IR or injured right now, okay? Right. The offensive linemen. Chase Young can't even get on the field, okay? And it's been almost a month. So again, I don't know how that, again, if that's helped him. And then again, you have to ask the question at the end of the day, does he have the attention of this roster in terms of, again, instilling discipline and, again, maybe a fear of their jobs, considering they're in a mass unit on the offensive line where they're having a lot of issues, but also, again, the lack of quality depth on the team.
Everything's going to be questioned after a horrible performance like that. But I don't have an issue with how they handled the preseason and training camp at all, because we didn't see, again, other than particularly with young linemen making mistakes pre-snap, the special teams were fine in the first 2 games as far as everything outside of the kicker. Blake Grupe may be a practice guy, but not a game day type of guy.
I think he missed, 2 kicks all training camp?
Right,
2 or 1, something like that.
But
I mean,
it's a completely different deal when you're in the real deal playing these games and have to make these kicks. But again, bigger picture, I think it has more to do with the idea of you let JT Gray go, an all-pro special teamer, a leader on that unit, a guy who maybe makes that tackle when Torrey Horton's returning a 95-yard punt return. In a situation where, you have a rookie punter, again, a new punter, probably outkicked his coverage, towards the middle of the field made it worse. But you start to question those little moves when you talk about, was that 53rd roster spot really all that important to lose one of the strengths of your team that are established in the league when you have so few? So you question moments like that. And when you bring up the front office and you bring up the head coaches over time, under Mickey Loomis, these head coaches have had a lot of say in the draft room and as far as who to retain and who to use and how on this roster. And when you look around the league and you see a Zach Bond and a Trey Hendrickson and a Caden Ellis playing someplace else, you look at Dennis Allen and go, boy, he was even worse higher than we thought. Those were good draft picks that should be here helping this team. And it's decisions like letting a Gray go that if the special teams start struggling here and can't do the basics right, when that was an area where you focused on trying to help you win football games, then you're going to look at Kellen Moore and go, hey, buddy, you got to get your priorities straight and make sure you have the best 53-man roster possible and be able to identify where you're actually good, because it's pretty easy to see right now all the areas where you're lacking. So it's little things like that we watch moving forward, but a rookie head coach is going to have these problems. Let's face it, the way they play offense is not only his sort of scheme, but with tempo and the safe passing game, it's telling you, I don't trust the quarterback. I don't trust our skill talent. We're not that good, and I'm trying to run as many plays as possible, keep the ball moving, be able to play field position, and give myself a chance on that side of the ball. He knows that this is a rebuilding year, even though the GM won't honestly come out and say it.
And kind of going off that, you mentioned training camp and the preseason.
Right.
We were at all those practices. It seemed like things were going well, and it seemed like these guys were really bought in. They did the team building stuff. They were running some competitive drills. At times, you had a heated offensive battle. Okay, maybe Shaheed's going to be much better, and Olave's back, and Kamara still looks good. And okay, like things look like they're gelling. Then you get into it. Then the season starts.
Right.
Then you lose in devastating fashion back-to-back weeks. Then you get punched in the mouth. It's one thing to create these team building exercises and try to kind of establish that rapport amongst players and the coaching staff. It's another thing to be able to evaluate what you've got, how to exploit weaknesses of other teams and get the most out of your certain guys in certain spots. This is where he'll be put to the test because, again, Sunday was bad. Now, look, it's hard to really get a sense for Kellen. When we talk to him, very reserved. He doesn't say anything.
Right.
He really doesn't. And look, man, if I was a coach, I don't blame him. Why would you want to even risk giving something away and tipping your hand at anything? So it's kind of hard to know where he's at with all of this because he's pretty, even-tempered. He's not going to say anything that'll even remotely get a headline. But yeah, I mean, this is where we're going to learn a lot more about him these coming weeks when things get really tough.
Yes.
And now you got a couple of weeks of in-game film to evaluate, all right, how do I fix this? How do you get better as the season goes on? Look at a guy like, Dave Canales last year in Carolina. Unmitigated disaster to start. And then, all right, fix some stuff up as the season went on. They were able to get some wins as the season wrapped up there. So that's what, maybe these fans could hope for.
Right. A lot of the problems they're having is lack of discipline. Okay, and again, and those are fixable, again, if you have a head coach that can instill discipline in your team. And we're going to find out a lot about more over the next few weeks to see if that's going to happen. To your point about special teams, it's more than JT Gray. It's DeMarco Jackson. It's Rico Payton. You got injuries to Taysom and Morrow. Those were quality special teams players for you last year. If you look at the special teams lineup now, it has been totally flipped over.
Yeah.
I mean, you got a lot of young players on there, so they took a chance at saying, look, okay, we're going to let some of our veterans go. We're going to let some of our core special team players go, and we're going to go with the young players that we think maybe have an upside for us for the future. But again, right now, based on what we saw in Seattle, that was a disaster.
There is in the NFL some sort of guidelines that you can tell that no matter who your coordinator is, they may have different philosophies on defense, more zone versus man-to-man, a three-man front versus a four-man front, basics like that, and it comes down to scheming it up with your players. Offense the same way based on your talent and how you want to play, but special teams, it seems to be a bit more variety in how coordinators approach it. And you have to question Phil Galliano. We haven't seen a special teams performance this bad in one quarter, much less one game. They were so horrible against Seattle that you go, man, we can't see too much more of this. You start to question the head coach who hired him, and you have to. The bright side, if there is one, is that if you're going to see these sort of major issues, errors, bad hires, personnel groups that are really worse than you even thought, let it happen this year and then make sure you get it right. If you're looking for a bright side, Sean Payton didn't always get his coaching staff right. So again, you'd rather see it right away when it's a lost cause and you can think towards the future and get it right. So let's not have anything hide and get any false sense of security about areas on the coaching staff or the roster. That's the bright side when you see it and you think, boy, this is painful to watch. But you just sort of have to laugh it off and say, this is year one. We know this team's not good. If it's happening again next year, big red sirens go off. Big issues that you worry about more when the team hopefully is a little better next year at least.
John, you've seen Rattle in training camp. You saw a little bit of him last year. Again, we're now in game going into game 4. He's 0-9 as a starter. There are some out there that are catcalling right now for Shuck. Again, most people believe they probably would have been 0-4 coming out of the first quarter. We know that the second quarter softens up in terms of, again, the schedule. There have been some predictions. I thought that, again, if they were 0-4 and Rattle wasn't playing well, that by the Giants game we would see Shuck. I'm not so sure after Kellen Moore's press conference yesterday if we're going to see Shuck sooner than later. It seems like, again, he's in Rattler's court at this point, but should we see Shuck at this point?
I don't think so right now. I don't think he's the reason that they're losing games, Rattler. I think he's a really tough kid. I think he's dealt with a ton of stuff in his career, from that QB1 show disaster where he couldn't have been more of a PR nightmare coming out of that. To, you know, being humbled at Oklahoma, sitting, waiting, finally getting your shot. Bench for Caleb Williams, got to go start somewhere else. You come here, you have probably the worst situation in the NFL when he takes over as starter with everybody hurt, going 0-6, you know, getting your butt kicked behind there, and now another, you know, them drafting the highest QB that they've taken in team history besides Archie Manning. So I mean, he's been through a lot of stuff, and if you watch these games, he's made some really good throws. I don't think they're losing because of him.
Agreed.
I mean, now does that mean that Kellen Moore trusts this offense? No. I mean, we saw with the timeouts against Arizona. That was despicable. Like them calling that. That's a blatant showing of, hey, I don't trust this offense right now. I don't want to risk a mistake, whatever. But I don't think if they were to move on from Rattler for Shuck, I don't think it would be a performance thing. I think it would just be let's try to ignite a spark here and see where it goes. I don't think it'd be fair to Spencer to bench him. I really don't. And again, like, he's not playing that poorly. I mean, he's been solid. He's getting better.
Yeah, he's not losing games, but he's not winning games for him.
He's doing exactly what Kellen Moore wants him to do. Try to avoid the boneheaded mistake. That was the issue with him as a prospect coming out. We saw a little bit of that last year when he was thrown to the Wolves as a rookie. So Spencer Rattler's doing exactly what he's being asked to do. This offense needs to take a few more chances. You need explosive plays. You can count on one hand how many plays over 20 yards this team's gotten from scrimmage in 3 games. You can't win in the NFL doing that. So they've got to find something, and that involves asking Rattler to make tighter throws and be unleashed a little bit here. You're trying to mold him into a guy who can play in this league, and I think he looks like somebody that at least is a career backup. I mean, that's good news from a 5th-round pick, but can he start and win games in the league? You got to unleash him a little bit more. And I'll say this, you mentioned the Arizona game, not calling the timeouts at the end of the first half, and then you're getting embarrassed in the first half at Seattle. It's 4th and 2, you're down 32 points, and you're kicking a field goal?
Horrible.
I mean, what are we doing here?
Let's just get him 3 points, make him feel better.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. But again, it goes to the point where Kellen Moore really is trying to win little battles because he knows the war is lost. But at the same time, like, you're telling your quarterback, I don't even trust you when we're down 32 and the game's already over, to get us 2 yards. I mean, what message does that send to your team? Moore's going to have to find a little bit more fire in the belly and understand the psychological thing. As much as it's important schematically and being calm and being rational and having a plan, because again, it is pro football and you don't want a team to be too emotionally up or down, but the emotions of the moment do matter, and those moments where you don't show faith and the ability to say, let's go make something happen, you don't have to be the fiery guy who does it with your emotion and clench your fists and things like that, but you got to just make the call and say, yeah, stay on the field, get me that first down. If those things start to add up, I'll say it again, you risk losing your team, and that'll make things a lot worse for the head coach moving forward, because you can't get rid of all 53 in one offseason. If you've got a group that suddenly goes, I don't know if this guy has it, it's going to reflect in the results, and it's going to last multiple years.
We saw that last year with Dennis Allen, and the year before that with Dennis Allen, where again he lost the locker room.
Anybody that saw Dennis Allen with the Raiders could have told you
that
exactly. He was the worst Raiders coach of the 2000s. He's definitely top 2, and that's saying a lot. The only thing I will say with what you said about the whole being too conservative, taking more shots, it's simple. It's a quick 10-second thing. If you play on offense like that, you need to have a generational top 5 defense in order to win games. Otherwise, you're not. And the Saints are middle of the pack. You're not going to win games like that if you're going to play that conservative on offense with like a solid average defense.
And here's the point. Again, you have wide receivers that are built to be able to get downfield, and you're asking those guys to play, again, going over the middle, to play 0 to 10, maybe 15, 20 yards. I read the other day, Olave's, I think he's the leading receiver in terms of catches in the NFL right now, but his yardage is like minuscule. Because of, again,
I'll tell you the numbers.
It's captain check down.
He's on pace for, I think, 131 catches for 935 yards.
That'll do it.
I mean, come on. I mean, and these are guys that, again, that all we heard was the blazing speed to take the top of a defense. Well, defenses are playing these guys now, again, for again, the short passing game. You can have it, you can dink and dunk, because we know at some point you're going to make a mistake and you're going to have to punt.
Where's the misdirection? Where I know it may not be in Moore's DNA, but more pre-snap motion, more misdirection. And another thing that Moore's track record keeps you very concerned about is the fact that your best weapon on offense is still Alvin Kamara. And more offenses don't design a lot of screens and throws to the running back. So you're making yourself even less potent that way. Sometimes you got to adjust to who your talent is. Either that or put Alvin Kamara on the market, especially if more running back injuries come along, because he's not going to help you win long term here, because you're not winning in the next couple of years, and by then he'll be into his 30s, and we know what happens.
Sure. Any comment?
I just think that you might start looking at a guy like him. Can you get a third-round pick for him at the deadline? There are going to be teams that are going to have injuries. They're going to be wanting to make a Super Bowl push. Alvin Kamara is the perfect, easy addition. Hey, be our quick screen, be our bailout, check down guy and take some carries. It doesn't take that long to learn an offense like that. And also, I don't want to say it, Demario Davis has been unbelievable. Top 5 linebacker in the league this year.
Still.
You watch all 22 with him, you watch anything. Unreal the way this guy's career has gone. What can you get for him at the deadline?
I'd even say Olave, because quite honestly, you look at his injury history, especially the concussion.
Last year, the deal.
Yeah. So you think about, okay, is this guy going to help us win long term? You have to admit that you shouldn't have traded up for him for an 11th overall pick, because he's really a number 2 receiver masquerading as a 1. He's really a possession receiver who doesn't bring very much after the catch, but he could help somebody once you get closer to the deadline. And the NFL is now trending towards more in-season trades for teams that really need help and need to make a push. And where are the Kansas City Chiefs, speaking of Kamara? That's a team that's 1 running back away, even though they're 1 and 2. You look at their roster and boy, their running backs are terrible. If they had Alvin Kamara with Pat Mahomes, they've got Rashee Rice coming back from suspension, Xavier Worthy from injury, and that defense is good. You're like, at least they should be calling and take what you can get. Think about the future.
Imagine how Olave could be like a Devontae Smith for someone else.
And I just like him to be, again, to not get false starts, to be when he's in motion, just stay still for a beat, just a beat.
He's excited, so at least he's excited to get out there and run his route.
He's trying to be. He knows he's only going 5 yards. He's trying to make sure he gets there quickly. Guys, before we move on from the Saints, Breeze has made the list of 128 modern NFL players for enshrinement in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. The screening committee again will reduce the list to 50 in October, 25 in November, 15 in December. If elected, it'll be the first on the first ballot. It'll be the first Saints player in history to be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Now, again, the 2026 class can only consist of 3 to 5 modern era players. Is he a first ballot Hall of Famer?
He should be. I don't know why he wouldn't be at this point. The interesting part is, are we going to have Breeze and Eli Manning, who we think this time around is going to get in? That would be a very New Orleans-centric and exciting next summer.
Throw Jari Evans in there as well?
Oh, he's going to get there eventually, but offensive linemen, especially interior linemen, they take a little longer.
Breeze being, a nominee or whatever they call it that came out yesterday, it's a formality. He's in. Second all-time in touchdowns, second all-time in passing yards, second all-time in completions, Super Bowl champion. Just when you look at what a QB is like between the ears, in their head, which is equally as important as your physical talent, he's probably top 3 of all time. Overall, I would say he's a top 5 quarterback to ever do it. First ballot Hall of Famer. There's no question. There's not even an argument.
Right.
I mean, how do you even argue against it?
No, the small market tax would be the only thing that could possibly come into play, and that's picking nits at this point. Although I will say I saw on social media something that social media is there to stir you up, where they statistically compared Jared Goff to Drew Brees, and it was rather favorable for Goff. But again,
also different age of football now too.
Right, exactly. And here's the other thing: if Tom Brady doesn't stick around for a few more years, Breeze still has all those records. So again, it is what it is. He's a first ballot Hall of Famer. It would be an upset if he's not. One more quick point on the Saints before we'll go to break. There's an impasse on the Saints lease right now. They're trying to get that done so they can have a chance at the 2031 Super Bowl. It looks like the impasse is on, again, the rental inside the Benson Tower. I won't ask to get into the minutia of it. You think the deal gets done pretty quickly, or you think that it's going to be an impasse that's going to be for a while?
I hope so, but the thing I question is when you talk about on the state level, we don't know how Jeff Landry and his people think. The governor is going to be key in all this and leading the way, and we don't know what minutia they're negotiating as far as the future goes to be able to guess at this point. I hope so. It's so important economically for the state, the revenue, the taxes, et cetera, that you think it'll get done, but I'm not 100% sure. Louisiana politics, there are no sure things.
John,
you have no idea what's, what's at stake behind the scenes, who's promising what, who's, I hate to say it, blackmailing with what. I mean, hate to say this
it's
is
high stakes negotiation.
This is not based on any internal knowledge.
Right.
I'm at a high school football game on a Friday night, watching Franklinton play against Covington. I'm not exactly breaking down, all of the minutia in there. All I'm saying is, whenever we saw stuff with this, with Sacramento, with the Oakland A's, with the Raiders, with other teams wanting new stadiums and whatnot, I mean, there's always stuff behind the scenes that we don't know about. Who knows what's being held over someone's head, what motives are, what certain people want, whether it's governor, somebody else, who knows. But I mean, I feel like usually these ultimately end up working in the favor, especially for a place like this. Maybe Oakland is like a bad example, but I think it should get done.
I almost say this, and again, when you look at the lease the way it is now, again, leading in, and it ends in 2029, the current lease, it's hard to claw back things that are in the previous lease from the new lease. Again, the Bensons are not going to want to give up something they already have. So that's going to be the difficult part here. Again, and then how do you sell, again, now the big part's going to be, how do you sell this to the Louisiana legislature when you have a losing team? It was easy in 2009 to sell this because the Saints were Super Bowl champions. It's a little bit harder now when you start talking North Louisiana and other places. They have to realize, again, with the Saints, with the Pelicans, what, again, these games that come to New Orleans mean, not just for our economy, but the economy of the state.
When you're looking at the pros and cons of making a deal like this, those legislators aren't looking at Saints' record over the last 5 years. They're looking at revenues, tax dollars generated, the need for tourism in New Orleans and for this state. And those numbers don't change. You get a Super Bowl, you make a lot of money. As we talked about, with the Saints are losing, but they're still selling out the stadium. It doesn't matter if the other team's fans are coming. As a matter of fact, economically, it's better. There it is.
It is. There's no doubt about it.
Because they're going on Bourbon Street, they're getting their daiquiris, they're hanging out.
They're partying all weekend long.
They're not hanging out under the overpass.
No, they're not. They're not tailgate. They are spending money. And again, that is the only good thing that's come out of that. We will take a break here from our underwriter. As we come back, we're jumping into LSU, Tulane, and Pelicans. You're watching Inside New Orleans Sports. John Sokoloff, Jude Young, my guest. We'll be right back.
Located at 3701 Iberville Street in Mid-City is Katie's Restaurant and Bar. Open 7 days a week, Katie's offers daily specials for lunch, dinner, and Sunday brunch. Serving New Orleans cuisine such as fried shrimp platters, grilled redfish, and a fully stocked bar. And don't forget about our expanded event seating and local entertainment. Featured on the Best of Food Network's diners, drive-ins, and dives, Katie's Restaurant and Bar.
Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration has been family-owned and operated since 1989. Burkhart has energy-efficient solutions and offers brands such as Mitsubishi ductless AC units and Amana, the only manufacturer with a lifetime unit replacement warranty. Burkhart's offers maintenance bundle packages that include servicing your AC, generator, and tankless water heater. For more information on the services Burkhart's provides, visit acpromise.com. Burkhart's Air Conditioning, Heating, and Refrigeration, providing comfort for life.
Welcome back to Inside New Orleans Sports. I'm your host, Eric Asher. Jude Young and John Sokoloff are our guests tonight. All right, guys, let's step into LSU. 56-10 winners over Southeastern. LSU is 4-0, Southeastern 2-2. Again, just overmatched, okay, in terms of SLU. I give them a lot of credit for, again, trying to hang in. This was more about trying to see what LSU had. Now, again, they got a lot of confidence right now after beating SLU, but they've got a huge game in front of them. Again, getting back into conference play with Ole Miss. The issue so far has been, again, on the offensive side, the ability to protect the quarterback and open up running lanes for the running back. The offensive line, again, really a work in progress with the changeover in the offseason. Give me your thoughts on the Tigers, where they are right now as they prepare for Ole Miss.
Here's the funny thing. We didn't think we would still have as many questions as we do about this team after 4 games because we thought a lot of those would be answered playing at Clemson and hosting Florida early. And particularly even on the defensive side of the ball, we didn't think this defense would be quite this good. We're still not sure if they're the elite of the elite, though, based on the competition, because Clemson and Florida have terrible offenses, and you played Louisiana Tech and Southeastern. But that is also still the strength of the team, and we're going to learn a lot at Ole Miss there. Just like on the other side of the ball, you talk about the running game, the inconsistency on offense. I still wasn't that impressed, even though they were racking up touchdowns and 35 points in the first half. Part of that was the first 2 drives, you had field position on the southeastern side of the 50, and it still took one drive with 16 plays. So it's almost like they had to wake up from their slumber against a team that's paid to lose to you to finally find something. After that, it looked like you got some more explosion coming in the offense. Look, the offensive line is an ongoing problem. I think at this point, you have to question the offensive line coach along with the offensive coordinator. I don't know if it's good enough to go on the road and win in the SEC, and will they adjust? Will they make changes to scheme? Like, are we going to have to use Bauer Sharp more as an H-back and give more lead blocking and do things we didn't plan to do to at least be able to get the short yardage that we need? The passing game hasn't been there. The deep passing game hasn't been there because Chris Hilton and Nick Anderson haven't been on the field all that much, and they haven't even really tried to stretch the field. I don't know if that's a winning combination against the schedule coming up. They're going to have to get more, just like with the Saints and explosive plays. LSU is not getting enough of those. They need to decide what kind of offense they're going to be. And to me, they need to play with more tempo. Doesn't seem to be something that Joe Sloan wants to do very often. And basically let Garrett Nussmeier be the 5th-year senior Heisman candidate, likely first-round pick, who runs the show, gets the ball into the hands of the playmakers, a smaller group. But make sure to take advantage when you have personnel defensively out there that you think the guys you have on the field can get after. Play fast and get after them, because the slower LSU plays offensively, the worse things get, because I don't think they're going to have balance against too many opponents. Even this Ole Miss team this week, who played a lot better defensively against Tulane than I even anticipated.
John?
Couple of things off what you said. Number one, tempo. They need that tempo, and I'll tell you the exact reason why. Once you establish that tempo, that assures Garrett Nussmeier has a clean pocket. If he's in a clean pocket, he's the best quarterback in the country throwing in that situation. That will open up everything, 100%. Number two, it's kind of, I don't want to say it's unfair, because that's the territory that you come with when you're LSU, when you're the head coach, when you're on this program. All right, against Clemson, well, they can't win week 1, it's going to be another whatever. Oh, okay, they win. Oh, well, now Clemson's not very good. All right, well then after that, our Louisiana Tech, whatever. But then, oh, okay, Florida, we'll see what they're made of. Florida team, they're going to be angry coming off last week. Oh, okay, well, Lagway's not good. Billy Napier's going to get fired. Your offense stinks again, whatever, you're spoiled. Okay, whatever. So now, you're 4-0 going into this, and everybody is, you're a top 4 team in the country, and everybody else is still, just, okay, well, what are we? I think there are a few things can be true. You can have a ton of question marks on offense. For an offense that I saw in fall camp that I thought was the deepest receiver room in the conversation in the country, and now it's been underutilized. I get that. I think this team can be good enough to win, even if the offense is mediocre, because of how good this defense is. Now, that will be put to the ultimate test this week against Ole Miss, because you talked about their coverage against, on the record, Tulane is not LSU. I can promise you that. But those defenders, man, they're sticky, they're in coverage, and Pete Golding has turned Ole Miss. I mean, last year, you think of Lane Kiffin and the offenses and whatnot, they were a defensive team. And they are a very, very good, sound defensive team in a place that thinks LSU is a big rival of theirs. It's going to be loud in there. That'll be a huge test for this offense. But again, we keep saying how many tests this team has. What if they come out of there with a win and are like, well, they beat Trinidad Chambliss. It was their backup. Okay, well, let's see what they can do against whatever. I mean, what more do they have to do? I guess maybe they need to look better on offense. I get that. But still, I mean, if they come out of there 5-0, you would think that there would be a little less, aggression towards it, but that'll never be the case.
There will be, though, if you go there and perform well enough offensively.
They haven't won there since 2019.
Right.
Joe Burrow.
Or if your defense is that tremendous and really gives Chambliss and that offense fits and doesn't give up a lot of points, and you're going to go, hey, we've seen enough of Ole Miss. This defense is for real, maybe the best in the country, certainly in the top 2 or 3. So we need to see that. But at the same time, the 4 next to their name means nothing. It does matter when you try to project. The way they've played in the first 4 games, are you going to go through the SEC gauntlet and not lose 3 games, which would cost you a college football playoff berth? At this point, the way they played offensively isn't going to cut it. There's too many good teams on the schedule. You're putting yourself in danger. And you mentioned with Golding, it is going to be a real challenge for LSU to overcome their current issues as far as big plays, because Ole Miss is not going to play the game of taking unnecessary risks. He's really only rushing 3 or 4 and saying, you got to put multi-play, 10-plus play drives together. If LSU's forced to do that, will they be able to cash in the red zone? Will they avoid the silly mistake, the pre-snapper holding penalty, the drop pass, all the things that we've seen getting stuffed in short yardage? Ole Miss is going to dare LSU to be consistently competent on offense. If they are, and they cash in and score on drives, and the defense lives up to its new reputation, then a lot of the murmurs will be shut down. If they don't, even if they do win, that should continue because they're going to be better, more balanced tests coming up, more experienced mobile quarterbacks, et cetera, et cetera. But I think LSU can answer a lot of these questions this week, and they're going to have to offensively and be efficient and cash in when they're in scoring territory, or they're not going to win.
Offensively, you got to be more explosive. You mentioned the deep wide receiver group. Again, you can blame it on the torso injury with Nussmeier. He's supposedly healed now. You've got to take the top off the defense. And the other thing is, you have to establish a running game. And again, and
Caden Durham might not play this week.
Right. So again, now you're looking at Johnson, Berry, or Jackson. And again, do you do it by committee? Someone has to emerge here to be an SEC back.
If Durham isn't the guy, though, you're in real danger because Juwan Johnson, this is a guy that a month ago that it sounded like Kelly was leaning towards redshirting, and now he might be your RB1. He's not a pounder, certainly, the way he's built, and you don't have that on your roster. The JT Lindsey loss was huge. Maybe Caleb Jackson can rise from the ashes here and provide something. He got some action against Southeastern and looked okay, but his vision's in question. Durham with their current blocking scheme. Look, that wasn't Jordan Rogers, the analyst on the TV broadcast, coming up with that on his own. It was an interesting week, wasn't it, where all of a sudden there's a torso injury for the quarterback. All of a sudden on the broadcast right away, it's like, well, let me tell you what the running back's doing wrong. It's starting to be pretty clear. It's a PR campaign to pull some of the pressure off the coaching staff and blame the players. I don't love that, but it's pretty transparent when you're actually paying attention and reading the tea leaves. Those excuses aren't going to matter, and everybody, including the coaches, are going to be blamed. And guess what? The coaches first if they don't get it done in Oxford.
It was so weird this week to see how much, Brian Kelly was emphasizing, Garrett's fine, he's fine. There's no way we're going to hold him out of this game. We need to play him because he's feeling good, and we want to make sure that he feels good, and he's finally getting, back in rhythm. And then the first drive, they make him, run for a touchdown. The QB sneak to get in there. So you're absolutely right. That's what it is. Be like, hey, yeah, he's not hurt, whatever. Don't blame that. Like, he's totally fine.
He's hurt, but he's not hurt.
Yeah.
That's an interesting message.
Monday, torso. Monday, torso. Thursday, oh no, he's as healthy as he's been all year, at his best week of practice.
Best training staff in the country.
I thought the same thing. Exactly the same
I'm just like, when you keep harping on it, there's an agenda. If you mention it one time because you're asked about it, fine. But asked about it, mentioned it, mention it again, mention it during the broadcast, asked about it at the end of the first quarter and talks about it again. It's like, at some point, where's the fire,
Guys, the SEC will go to a 9-game conference schedule. The permanent opponents for LSU are Ole Miss, Arkansas, Texas A&M. Thoughts?
Well, I guess for rivalry's sake, that's as well as they could do. I was a little surprised that Arkansas wound up being the third team, but it's pretty obvious that rivalry weekend was deemed extremely important. And it makes a lot of sense to move that battle for the boot back to Thanksgiving weekend where it was. You could put two old Big 8 rivals in Missouri and Oklahoma together, and the pieces fit well enough. Obviously, they valued that because I thought for sure they would give LSU a tougher third opponent.
I thought Alabama would be there.
Ole Miss is considered a high-level opponent, but if Lane Kiffin left, there's more of a drop-off than is likely over time with the resources of a Texas A&M plus the Florida and Alabama. Alabama got out of it because they were already guaranteed to play Auburn and Tennessee and weren't going to get a tough third. So Florida made a lot more sense, and they've played them traditionally, I think, top 5 all time in number of matchups. So a little surprise there, but it works out well for LSU because those are area rivals. There is some regionality still to college football.
Which I think they were going for.
And the SEC understands that.
No doubt.
Yeah, I mean, Arkansas, you got to be thanking whoever you believe in above that's on there if you're an LSU fan. Gosh, every week you watch Sam Pittman, and he finds a way to lose these games at the end. It's on him. He finds a way with these mistakes and whatever. You heard their AD Hunter, talking the other day about how they're not built to win a championship. If you're LSU, that's music to your ears that's a permanent opponent. A&M, it looks like they're starting to right the ship with Elko, but still,
they got a lot of money.
Prove it more.
They're still going to spend.
They got a lot of money.
They're gonna spend that money, but they still got to prove it and show more consistency. So from a competitive standpoint, it's great. For a college football fan standpoint, you'd probably rather see Alabama or Florida on there.
And you will, because again, when you look at the schedule, again, Texas is coming to LSU next year. Alabama's coming to LSU next year. It's going to be a really tough schedule next year. Let's get to Tulane. I want to touch a little bit on the Ole Miss game because, again, what was expected out of Tulane did not happen. We really saw the difference between an SEC team with SEC size, SEC speed, SEC players, as opposed to, again, Tulane, who, again, is in the American. I really thought they would be able to hang with them, but I did not think they would be able to win. I was surprised they got blown out.
Their passing game wasn't polished enough to be able to go in there and keep up or have a chance to keep up. You've got still an unsettled receiver room. Who's your go-to guy? Who's just reliable to be able to catch the balls that hit them in the hands? And Jake Retzlaff has had so much success as the starter so far at Tulane. Again, a guy who came in late July, so that's a long-term chemistry build between a quarterback and his receivers. But at the same time, he's had so much success being a runner that you didn't need it against an opponent the caliber of Ole Miss, so you really didn't gain the confidence that you could make the passes you needed to against SEC defensive backs. Guys make catches when there's a small window. Too many drops. And I am also still long-term concerned about Retzlaff as a guy who Ole Miss didn't bring a lot of pressure. I think opponents in the American will. Whenever he saw pressure, he gave up. Like you just immediately threw the ball into the ground more often than not, and that sort of goes in line with what he did last year against BYU, who could control a lot of teams offensively the way they played, but when teams brought extra pressure, when he was under pressure, he wasn't that good. But at the same time, just like with LSU, we're going to learn a whole lot more moving forward. I said that was going to be their issue at Ole Miss. It was even worse than I thought. 11 first half passing yards, but they need to get better in that area because they can run the ball with the quarterback, a good room of running backs.
Yes, they do.
Solid offensive line, and the defense will do well in league play, but they've got to get more out of their guys up front. There were some heavy investments there in the portal. They're not getting enough consistent pressure. This isn't a defense built to have to blitz people. They want the pressure to come from the front four. That's got to get better, but I think this weekend, as we get into it, it's going to be a get-right type of game for them.
I totally agree with everything you said and all of those issues, whether it was offensively, Retzlaff, the gap between what, let's face it, what Ole Miss has to spend compared to Tulane. Darian Mensah got, $4 million over there from Duke. Did Tulane spend a total of $4 million on all their guys? Who knows? That's the thing. So that gap was evident. But what I do know is you take the mistakes from a game like that, and there were some little moments, the 4th and 3 right in front of the end zone. If they score a touchdown there, 10-point game, maybe things are a little different. Who knows? But the gap was clear. The mistakes were clear. Everything you talked about between the offense, the defense just completely almost toying with them at this point. I don't want to say, exposing Tulane's offense a little bit, but, Retzlaff does. The tape behind him is indicative of what you got to do to be able to defend him. This week against Tulsa, it's the perfect storm for Tulane. Tulsa is coming off one of their most Tulsa's not a good football team. Let me just start that out. They're not. Tulane's a 15.5-point favorite there at last check. Not a good team. They're coming off their biggest win of the last who knows how many years for their program, right? There's gotta be some form of an emotional hangover coming over that. That loss was so bad that it made the second longest tenured coach in the country get fired.
Yes.
Not right in the middle of the season. I get it was a straw that broke the camel's back, but still. Coming into that, coming off the correction game against Ole Miss, going into play that Tulane team, or that Tulsa team that, let's face it, isn't very good, it should get them right back on track. Because John Sumrall, they're never going to lose a game because of him. It's never going to be like, wow, what are they doing coaching-wise? What is up with this or whatever? He's going to have them ready to play. He's going to have the perfect things, set up, whatnot, whether it's, practice throughout the week or in their game. He's not going to mess up anything for them. So I think they get back on track this week. And look, if they, I don't want to say even run the table, but if they go 10-2, maybe win the conference championship, things could look good for them.
Yeah, if they do that, they're probably going to be in as long as they get to the conference championship game. Two things about the Tulane defense important to note here. The offense was so bad and couldn't stay on the field in the first half that they were holding up pretty well in the red zone early and making Ole Miss drive the field. The dam broke at some point. This is a team that I will agree with the argument. It's got to be a little tired from these first 4 games. There were no layups in the first 4 games of any sort compared to other teams in the country.
They also missed Derek Graham last week, who will be back. They're starting left tackle, just to include.
And emotionally, you talk about just beating Darian Mensah and what that meant to everybody that's been in this program from last year, and the pressure on that with the stadium packed and we need to perform, and that was the end of a 3-game stretch, and then you have to go to Ole Miss. So maybe fatigue is the only question you worry about at this point with a bye week coming, a chance to recharge, but I don't think that's going to be an issue. And the reason why he's saying Tulsa is bad despite just beating Oklahoma State is because, I mean, they also lost to New Mexico State. They don't score a lot of points. They give Dominic Richardson, who I believe is like a 6th-year running back, they give him the ball constantly. Had 31 carries against Oklahoma State.
They got bullied by Navy, too.
Yeah, they don't have a very good passing game, and Tulane should jump on this team and have a fun afternoon at Tulsa to go into the bye with. I'll be surprised if they don't.
If you were to tell a Tulane fan heading into this year, you are going to be 4-1 going into the bye, all of them take it, no questions asked.
No doubt. And again, you flush the Ole Miss loss this one. Yes, look, you made mistakes. You in a lot of cases you were out athlete, out physicaled, right? But at the same time, again, and Summerall said in his opening press conference, everything they want is in front of them now with the American, and they can win the American. Look, obviously, again, Memphis is going to be tough. Okay, there's no doubt about that. But they can win the American again, especially if they stay healthy and again they stay disciplined. So
that could be a top 25 matchup in Memphis.
It could be
later in the year. That'll be a road game. That'll be a fun one.
Yeah, there would be no doubt about it. Let's shift gears to the Pelicans again. I mentioned on the show the other day, they're not a rebuilding team. They won 49 games 2 years ago. Again, they were beset by injuries last year. Now the question is, again, has Dumar's done enough in retinkering this roster after, again, really getting gutted last season, right? Especially on the defensive end, to be able to get this team back into contention. Your thoughts on the move that has been made, and can this team take that big step after, again, last year winning only 21 games?
Well, it's a rebuilt front office that put their imprint on the roster pretty quickly, but it's the same head coach from a couple of years ago running those 49 games. It's the same superstar, but maybe not the same superstar. I'm going to start calling him Big Skinny, Zion Williamson, the way he looks. If this is the maturity change that was needed, and this is going to be something long-term that keeps him healthy and on the court, he could be special. We'll see if he's, Larry Johnson, like when you compare skill sets to superstars of the past. If he's that type of player and you get a healthy season from a Trey Murphy, a healthy season once he's out there from Herb Jones, and you're right about Jordan Poole, that may be the key to this whole thing. Is he going to be a solid winning player, not only put up numbers, but be there in the clutch and make the plays on both ends of the court that you need? Then they can be at very minimum, even in the Western Conference, a play-in team, assuming Zion Williamson starts playing like a top 10 player overall. If Zion Williamson doesn't perform, none of it's going to matter because the West is too tough. You're not getting away with it like you might have in the East. So tell me Zion plays 65 or more games this year, I'll tell you that they're probably going to be right in it to be a postseason team, and who knows, could surprise, particularly because I think they're built well enough to shoot the ball around him now, and maybe the young players like Derek Queen when he gets healthy, but especially Jeremiah Fears is an explosive guard off the bench. If he can give you little sparks by the end of the season to get through the 82 games, there's a blueprint that Joe Dumars really wants to follow here for success. But again, it's all about Zion.
This fan base would love, on a random Tuesday night in Utah, tie game, Fears comes in for 4 minutes, has a quick 8 points, whatever. That would be perfect for him. If Zion plays 65 games, this team is winning at least 45. If, obviously barring injury disaster from everyone else, they are set up very well. And what I mean by that is, with Zion, I don't think he's going to be getting in his own way when it comes to injuries. I feel like at this point, if he's really suffering injuries, and who knows how bad that hamstring is that's really lingered throughout the years, he's very skinny now. He says he's got to be held accountable. Okay, I believe that when I see it. Joe Dumars, bad boys, Pistons mentality, whatever. Okay, we'll believe that when we see it. But what we do see, as of now, is somebody that's in shape, coming off a season where last year when he played, it was the best basketball of his career.
Agreed. From
so many different standpoints. You have him. You have Trey Murphy, who was borderline all-star last year. You have Herb Jones, first-team all-defense. You trade for a guy like Jordan Poole, who, when you trade away CJ and take him on, you have more money in future years. But guess what? That shows, maybe they believe in him, whatever. The Warriors don't win that championship without him.
Right.
He learned from Steph Curry. He learned from Klay Thompson. He was a max player for that organization. He still got it from a spacing perspective. Kevon Looney's won championships. He can help this team actually rebound the basketball, which was one of their biggest issues last year. I mean, Jose Alvarado's a playoff rotation guy. Sadiq Bey, if he's recovered from his torn ACL, he could be good. I was at their practice yesterday, and I was at the facility the day before that. They said Trey Murphy told me, this is the best vibes from a day one of training camp that he's had in his 5 years there. And the reason for it is because this team has flushed away last year and they know what their potential is from this roster. I think health is the biggest thing they need to overcome, because outside of that, this is a Western Conference playoff team.
And that's the thing. That's the goal here. Be a playoff team, have a winning record, and get back to where you were a couple of years ago and be at least a factor in the West. Do I buy that Zion Williamson's mentality, even if they do accomplish those goals, are going to make you a championship contender? Honestly, I don't. I need a lot more evidence that his maturity gives him the idea of being the killer as opposed to being more comfortable. I don't want to say he's a clown, but he's more comfortable being the class clown than the leader, the killer. He's not Michael Jordan staring at the tablet
he's
saying
showing up
revenge,
late.
you know?
He's showing up late to planes. He's having off the court issues.
Now maybe all that's gone, but I just want to see somebody that's so hungry to win. I use the word hungry, but in all seriousness, the desire to win, hate to lose is what they call it with the true greats. Does he have that in him? So let's look at small goals and see if he can be a consummate professional, at least, with a good group around them that should be focused this season, and get back to where they were a couple of years ago. That would be a success for this year. Anybody hoping for any more, that's a longer term question.
And I'm not like pounding the table saying, let's go Pels. They're going to win 50 games this year. I believe in them. Because you know what? They haven't earned that. Zion hasn't earned that.
That's right.
The only thing that he can do as of right now is show us that he's working towards that and ready to prove it this season. And by all accounts, he's done that. He said the right things. He's looked sharp. We'll see.
Only got about a minute and a half left. Short leash on Willie Green?
Yes, because I think James Borrego would get the call very quickly if this team doesn't get off to a good start. Assuming they don't have a bunch of injuries between now and mid-October. With this team, you never know. But if they go into the season with what they have now healthy and they immediately struggle to perform, then at some point when you've got an experienced coach in the wings, I could see that move happening, because some were surprised that he even kept the job with the change in the front office. Therefore, he's not Joe Dumars' guy. He's going to have to earn that right.
And he's not Joe Dumars' guy. And also, I mean, let's face it, with the coaching cycle, when it was, there were 8 vacancies. New Orleans wasn't going to pony up $10 million to bring Mike Malone in here. They just were not. So it made more sense to keep him on than to fire him, pay him out, and then pay somebody else. So now, this is the evaluation period. You have the roster. If everyone's healthy, now it's 100% on him, because last year there were games where he even said they looked soft. That's on the coach.
Last year of his deal, so again, they're not going to be eating a lot of money. And then you look at the history of Joe Dumars. He has a quick hook on his coaches. He doesn't have a lot of patience. Now, again, they have a relationship going back to Cooley High in Detroit. Maybe that means something, but I don't think it does.
I don't think it does either. No, and also, like Borrego, this would be perfect. If he's already kind of, if Dumars is kind of shaky on Willie Green, all right, if you fire him midway through the season, get a spark for your team. But it's also, how often do you get an audition for a coach like Borrego if you want him to be the full-time guy?
No doubt about it. John Sokoloff, Jude Young, thanks so much for being with us tonight here on Inside New Orleans Sports. Definitely appreciate it. And again, like I said, check out both guys, radio, TV, doing a fantastic job. All right, guys, don't forget, again, there's a QR code on your screen that will take you to the WLAE-TV YouTube channel, also to my website. It's pretty easy. Again, so many ways to catch our program between WLAE-TV, WLAE-TV2, and Pelican Sports Television. I say it every week, set your DVR, you'll never miss the show. You can catch me on the radio, 106.7 The Ticket, 4 to 6 weekdays. You can listen live at ericasher.com, also at theticket, 106.7.com. Also, again, we have our app, 106.7 The Ticket app. Please download that. You can take the station, the show with you everywhere. iHeartRadio app, TuneIn Radio app, other digital platforms to take the station, the show with you everywhere. Also, again, want to thank our underwriters who make the show possible. Each and every one of those underwriters. Again, without those underwriters, there is no show. Please support our underwriters, and then the production staff here at WLAE-TV do a fantastic job each and every week producing our program. Special thanks to Ron Yeager, Jim Dotson, Alex Jacone, the best director on the planet, William Hill. For John Sokoloff, Jude Young, I'm Eric Asher. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week for another edition of Inside New Orleans Sports. Thanks for watching.
first tee was more than golf. It's where I discovered what I'm capable of.
You didn't just prepare me for 18 holes. You were preparing me for every day of my life. Learn more at firsttee.org.
Did you know that there's a crisis facing pollinators, like birds, bats, butterflies, and especially bees? The Great Sunflower Project needs citizen scientists to identify where pollinators are doing well and where they are not. This is important because 1/3 of the food in the U.S. depends on pollinators. It's easy to help. Watch for pollinators on sunflowers or any other flowering plant. First, identify and count the flowers you are monitoring. Count the pollinators you see on the flowers and record the amount of time you watched. Upload your results on a computer or smartphone. Join the thousands of other volunteers across the country who are part of the Great Sunflower Project. You can make a difference.
We're local and educational. You're watching WLAE-TV, celebrating 40 years of New Orleans public television.